What are the best things about chili? All of it. That's what the best parts about chili is. It is a simple meal, and yet it is so flavorful. I mean, the spice just really hits your tongue, and then the meat and the texture. It's just a great thing. Hey guys, it's Casey from KeepCookinKC. Today we are doing chili because the inspiration came from it being a little chilly outside. Um, so we're doing chili. I'm personally using venison. You do not have to. You can use beef. I'm also using a pressure cooker. You do not have to. You can also use a pot or a crock pot. I'm going to go over a lot of hacks, a lot of tips, and a lot of great things to make your chili delicious. If you're using beef, I will also give you some great advice on how to make it with beef. And if you're using venison, I'm going to give you great tips to make your venison not so gamey tasting. So with all of that being said, that's right, soak that all in, breathe it, breathe it, breathe it, and we're gonna roll. One of the things that you won't see here is diced tomatoes and paprika. I meant to put those in there. However, I have mom brain. You'll need those as well. Write it on your grocery list. Okay, so if you're just using a classic pot over the stove technique, make sure you throw down some oil and then cook your meat in it. If you're using hamburger meat, you really don't have to put a whole lot of oil, just a little bit. If you're using deer meat, I would suggest a little bit extra because it's a very lean meat. So throw down some oil, brown up your meat, and make sure to add your spices. When it is finished, go ahead and drain your meat because you don't want all that, like the juices and stuff, chilling in your chili. Chilling in, oh my gosh, I'm on chili fire. Like chili. Chili is fire. All right, anyway, so drain your meat. We do this so that the juices aren't just sitting in your chili and make your chili taste like straight up meat instead of all the flavors that you want to have in there. With deer, I'm using a little bit extra salt. With beef, I don't use as much salt. Again, it's fatty. There's just a lot of rich flavor in it anyway, and it just doesn't need as much salt. Deer needs a little bit more salt, not like crazy amount. You're not gonna like dump the whole thing in there, but you know, you need a little extra just to make sure that flavor's really hitting the spot for you. So whenever you're putting the spices on your meat before you go to cook it, cover it so that like let's say that you have 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of meat, which is about what I used. I covered enough so that if I were to cover the other side, that's about how much I was using. So go by that. Like you want to cover the top side, and then you want to cover the back side of it. So, because usually, you know, it's like a block. So that's a good way to kind of measure it. I would say it's probably at the end of the day about like 1/2 tablespoon of each, but it could be a little bit more. That's the best way to judge it in my book. So however much meat you have comes in the pack, cover the top, flip the meat, cover the bottom. Best way to go about it. Thing about deer when you're cooking it, it being more lean than like beef is, you wanna be careful cooking it. So like it'll dry out a lot quicker. Beef has fat, right? So fat keeps it kind of moist. Dang, why do I always have to use the word moist in my things? If you don't like moist, I'm probably not the channel for you. I am still the channel for you. Love me. It's cool. So if you're using beef though, you can cook it at like a higher temperature. Deer meat, I would cook it at a lower temperature, and just that way you're not overheating it and drying it up so quickly. If you're using a crock pot, you're going to, after you drain your meat, you're going to put your meat in there and all your ingredients in there, mix it up real nice, and let it go. I would suggest to add a little extra water, just so that whenever it's cooking, some of the water is going to probably evaporate. You want to make sure that it is, it's not too thick. And if you use a pressure cooker, use a little less than you would normally use in a pot. Pots on the stove, I would say you want to use a good bit of water extra, because a lot of times your chili, it just cooks down, and you don't want it to burn. So make sure that whenever you're cooking it, you're using enough water, or not too much water, because I found out with a pressure cooker you can definitely use way too much water. Actually, with that being said, if you do use too much water, you can always just scoop it out. If you're using a pressure cooker, I would just scoop it out, because the flavor, once you already cook it, the flavor is really packed in the chili. Just scoop out the extra water, throw it in the sink, and then hit the brown sear button and let the rest of the water kind of cook out into a good consistency. I think the top 3 best chili, we'll say top 2 other than mine, is Wendy's. Yes, I know it's a fast food, but they have amazing chili. And definitely Permanis. If you're from around Pittsburgh, you understand Permanis. They have the next best chili. But this chili is a pretty, I don't know, it might even top it. You just have to make it and find out. Comment below if you've made it and how you like it. So we're gonna probably add about another half a tablespoon of cumin, probably another teaspoon of cayenne, and about, I'm trying to think, I think it was probably about like a half a tablespoon of salt. Maybe not that much, maybe a little less than that, and a lot of pepper. Whenever I use the pressure cooker, it cooks it in about 30 minutes. I use the soup stew button. If I'm cooking it over the stove, I put it over low heat, like really low heat, and I let it cook for about 4 hours. And if I'm using a crock pot, like I said, I cook the meat in a skillet first, then I drain it, and then I put it over in the crock pot. And yes, that's where I put my crock pot. But I'll put it on for like at least 4 hours, let it cook, and let all the flavors kind of in. But after we drain the meat, we always add in all our ingredients and let it bust out the flavor. The soup stew button on the pressure cooker is amazing. So, yeah. When your chili is finally ready to go, throw some cheese on it, a little bit of onions, and some sour cream. Dude, if you do it like that, you are seriously crushing it. If you want to be a hipster, toss some avocado on there. And actually, I'm not going to knock avocado. I do actually kind of like avocado. Not my favorite thing by itself, by any means, but whenever it's like mixed in with stuff, I do like it. I like the flavor. The texture is a little weird, not going to lie, but it's alright. It's growing on me. If you do it with cheese, onion, sour cream, avocado, that's really good like that. It's also amazing with sour cream, cheese, and then over macaroni noodles. Dude, fire! Who would have ever known? Chili on macaroni noodles, skip the crackers. Sorry, Zesta, not today. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of KeepCookinKC. Chili is great. Made my day a little better. I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna probably eat some of it right now. You can subscribe right here. I'm gonna keep eating my chili. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.